If the fire alarm sounds, you should leave by the nearest fire exit, which may be behind you, and meet at the top end of Mill Hill car park. Welcome to this meeting of the Council. I am Councillor Anderson, Chairman of the Council, and I will be chairing this evening's meeting. I would like to remind everyone present to use the microphones when speaking and not to speak too close to the microphone to maintain the sound quality of the recording and broadcast. Only 2 microphones in addition to mine can be on at the same time. Please also make sure that all electronic devices are switched to silent and notifications are muted. Councillors should stand if they're able to do so when speaking and speak one at a time through me. Firstly, I would like to welcome newly elected Councillor for Lutterworth East, Piper, to his very first council meeting. Councillor Piper, I believe you've requested a couple of words which I'm able to permit.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I would like to thank you and all of the members and the officers for such a warm welcome this evening, and indeed when I was in the building on Friday. It is with sadness that I fill a dead man's shoes, and especially Mr. Gares, who I always found to be an absolute gentleman. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Councillor Piper. I would also like to welcome the Council's new Head of Legal, Alex Powers. Item 1. Our first item is apologies for absence, and I've received apologies from Councillor Bateman, Beadle, Grafton, Reid, Mahal, Moder, Sarfas, Taylor and Worrell. Are there any other apologies for absence? I'd like to remind all members to make sure they sign the attendance sheet before the meeting starts. If you arrive after a meeting starts, you will need to note your actual time of attendance. This can be recorded by Democratic Services. You can only vote on any business for which consideration started before your arrival. If you are leaving before the meeting ends, you will also need to record your time of departure on the attendance sheet. Item 2 is the declarations of members' interest. Do any members have any interest to declare on any item of business on the agenda? May I remind all councillors to ensure that their registers of interest are up to date and any new or amended interests are reported to the monitoring officer. Item 3. I'm going to suggest that we take items 3 to 7, which is the minutes of the following meetings: Council on the 23rd of February 2026, Extraordinary Council on the 16th of March 2026, Extraordinary Council on the 20th of April 2026, Extraordinary Council on the 18th of May, and Extraordinary Council on the 8th of June, all together. Is Council in agreement that these minutes of those council meetings listed on the agenda are accurate record of the meeting, and therefore I can sign as a true record? We need a proposer.
Just check there's no disagreement.
No disagreement?
It's 3%.
Okay, I shall sign the minutes. Item 8 on the agenda is my announcements. Since the last meeting of the council, I've attended 11 events across the district, including judging floats at Harborough Carnival, the Armed Forces Day ceremony, and a concert performance from the Berardi Wind Orchestra in aid of Loris Hospice. As Loris is my chosen charity, this was a very special afternoon for me, and my sister-in-law Bethan joined me as my consort. During the interval, I had an opportunity to meet the Chief Executive of the Hospice, Camilla Barrow. We discussed ways in which we can work together over my term as chairman, and I shall be announcing details of a charity dinner, a carol service, plus other fundraising events in due course. I've also been supported by my vice chair, Councillor Scott, who has attended the Lord Mayor of Leicester's civic service and the Armed Forces Day service parade in Leicester. Item 9. We will now move to item 9, which is the presentation of the Long Service Award to Councillor Paul Dan. Whilst this item does not need to be formally proposed or seconded, I'd like to invite any councillors who wish to say a few words, if they like. Councillor Wellband.
Just to say, Paul, congratulations on your awards. We've worked together since I was elected in 2019. I think you've probably done this cabinet role and shadow cabinet role for quite some time now, and you've done it very, very well and diligently. And I know you serve the residents of Broughton Astley and the district very, very well. So congratulations, Paul, and we look forward to seeing you up there with your award. Thanks.
Councillor Bremner.
Remain seated for reasons, as you know. I'd like to thank Paul for welcoming me in 2007. And I would like to thank him also for the advice and tutelage, really, of being on as it was then, executive. And for his community in Broughton Astley, he served so diligently and so well. So you thoroughly deserve it, sir. Thank you.
Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I really think I would say a few words because whilst Paul and I have been on opposite sides of the political chamber for a very long time, I think we can say that we're reasonably good friends. And I'm absolutely delighted to see this long service award. I know you've always served your community with great keenness and with real enthusiasm, and it is a justified award, and I'm absolutely delighted to see you receiving it this evening. And for the good words I'm saying about you, if you'd like to say good words about me later, I'll be very happy. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I would also like to congratulate Councillor Paul Dan on his long service and commitment. I know that he's chaired many meetings and organisations and are very, very committed. I'm sorry you didn't quite make it last time, Councillor Dan, but you made it this time. So congratulations. Thank you, Chair.
So Councillor Dan, allow me, in my limited interactions with you, I would say that I found you to be one of the most courteous individuals, and from speaking to other members of the opposition, I believe there is respect across the entire chamber for you. So I'd like to invite you to the lectern to receive this award, and you may also say a few words.
Well, thank you, councillors, officers. I don't know why I'm being given this really, because I've enjoyed every minute of the 25 years. And it's thank you to councillors, past and present, officers, past and present, who have done a wonderful job to encourage me and to help me through all the difficult times and all the good times. So thank you very much for that, and have a good meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 10, we will now receive a report from the leader, part 4, section 1, paragraph 4.1.15.8 of the council procedure rules entitles members to ask the questions of the leader on this report once it has been presented. If you wish to ask a question of the leader about something in this report when he finishes, please indicate to me clearly by raising your hand. The report was sent out earlier today and hard copies have been tabled. Councillor Wellband, did you want to introduce the report?
No, thank you. I'll just take it as read because I know we've got a long meeting. I would just like to reiterate the welcome to Councillor Piper on your first meeting. Welcome, and I hope we worked well together. There is a small typo in here about the hospitality grant scheme. That's next month rather than next week because of various technical issues that we have to bring it next month. And also to add I meant to add this and completely forgot, it's the classic car show over the weekend. I couldn't go, unfortunately, but I understand it went very, very well this year and was extremely well attended. So my thanks to everyone at HTC for organising such a good show. Happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wellband. It was a very good show. The organisers tell me it was the busiest they've ever had, so it was a success. Councillor Knowles, would you like to ask a question about something in the report?
Yeah, I have several pointers that I want to make with regard to the report, please, Chairman. I mean, first of all, I would like to echo what Councillor Wellband has said about welcoming Councillor Piper. And I think that Councillor Piper spoke very well a few minutes ago with his words to council. The first things that he said as a councillor, I think, will put him in good stead and earn him a lot of respect. I've noted that the council leader has put in about a number of grants, etc., which are referenced in his speech, but I can't see anywhere in there, Chairman, where he's made any reference to this actually going through any form of scrutiny. I think certainly it's quite important that if we're talking about spending additional monies, that scrutiny needs to have its opportunity to examine. And I would very much welcome some indication from the leader as to when we can actually see that come to scrutiny. I think there's quite a wide range of things within that need to be addressed. Also, there is a comment in here about the situation on the local government reorganisation. I was having a very interesting discussion earlier this afternoon with Councillor Scott, and I think the two of us sat there completely bemused as to exactly what we're going to end up here, because none of us have got a clue. I'm delighted that we're going to see the opportunity to help shape through an advisory panel. Was something I had the opportunity to discuss with the leader about this when we met a couple of weeks ago. And I think it is vitally important, because at the end of the day, what we have to be doing, Chairman, is we have to be looking at what is best for our community. And that is very much protecting the outlying areas like the Glen area and also Thurmby and round that. There's some real question marks as to where we're going. Delighted that we've got the commentary in there about the England result, which is fantastic. I think we're all delighted with that. I would, however, like to ask the leader, has he made an omission from his report? Because I would have thought there might have been some comment in here, Chairman, and I hope I'm able to invite him to say some comment about this awful rail crash that occurred, because obviously it's on a line that is serviced by the line that serves Market Harborough and all of our surrounding villages. There was a tragic loss of life and an awful lot of injuries there. And I would hope that we can make some comment on that, because I think it's very important that we do. Other than that, Chairman, I'll keep my other comments for the body of the meeting.
Any other questions on the leader's report? Councillor Asher?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's thanks for your update. It's good to see that the ward member grant scheme is in its final stage of preparation. I do remember that that should be coming to scrutiny. That was spoken about at the scrutiny meeting. I was wondering if we're also going to get updates on the new hospitality grant scheme, because at the moment we haven't got any information really about that at all, apart from that was in the original budget amend. So it'd be good to have some information on that before it goes public, so that us as councillors know what we're talking about. I also wondered what is happening with the neighbourhood plan funding, which was another thing that was on the original budget amend, because I can't see that mentioned in this report, and it would be good to know about that, because obviously our parish councils are asking about it and they want some details. Thank you very much.
Any other, Councillor James?
Chairman, yeah, I'd just like to pick up on a point there that Councillor Knowles mentioned, particularly the state of the East Midland Railways at the moment. I would welcome a comment from the leader on that. As a number of you know, I did raise matters over the operation of the East Midland Railways at the previous scrutiny meeting, and it was suggested that...
Councillor James, this is not in the leader's report about the East Midlands trains is not in the leader's report. We're just taking questions in relation to the leader's.
We've had a question.
You've had a comment on the leader's report.
Yes,
sure.
well, I would appreciate a comment from the chairman about that, given the background to this. I think it's a very important matter and it affects many of our residents in this district. Thank you, Chairman.
Is there any other questions in relation to the leader's report? Councillor Wellband, I'll give you a right of reply.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Knowles. In terms of the two schemes here, the grant schemes, asking them to come to scrutiny. As you know, they passed in the budget amendments in early on this year, I think in February. It's not our intention to bring it back to scrutiny. We want to bring these things through council and get them approved as soon as possible to get the money out the door. So personally, I don't think we should do that. I think we should crack on. We've already had agreement from council to do that, and I think that's what we should do. I think you made comments about the LGR process. Yes, we did speak about that when we met, and that advisory panel is being set up, and you'll get details of that shortly. Yes, I mentioned the England result in my report here, but I totally agree. It was a very good result last night. In terms of the sad railway crash that happened that both you and Councillor James have mentioned, as you know, I'm a regular user of East Midlands Railway, including earlier on that day on the same line. And I did make a comment about this very publicly in the local media, as well as my own councillor Facebook page. It is a sad tragedy that happened, and I'd like to echo the thoughts that have been said about this already. I think that's everything. Councillor Page has just indicated to me that she will answer Councillor Ash's point about the neighbourhood plan funding. Thank you.
Thank you, if I may, through you, Chairman. Councillor Asher, I've only just picked up my computer. It's been broken. So the neighbourhood grants, there are £50,000 allocated to that this year. Next year, we have, it was delegated authority. David Atkins and I and Matt Bills have formulated a criteria which we will circulate to all councillors as soon as possible. Matt Bills will be allocating those grants because they're falling under the planning portfolio, and grants will be for all neighbourhood plans which are in existence to get them made and get them through the door, to speak. Grants will be between £5,000 and £10,000 each, and we will send that around as soon as I get. There's 200 emails on there now. I'll work my way through. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to item 11. Cabinet request of Council to agree an increase in resourcing to meet the administration's priorities. I'd like to remind all councillors that as per the Constitution, speeches will be limited to 5 minutes. Officers will be keeping time and there will be a 30-second warning. And of course, I'm a stickler for the rules, so that's what we'll do. Is there a point of order, Councillor Knight?
No, Chair, I wish to move an amendment to the report.
It's not been proposed yet, so I'll bear that in mind after it's been proposed, okay? So I'll invite Councillor King to present the report.
Chairman, thanks very much, and congratulations to Councillor Piper. Hopefully he's got some time he can spare to be here from County Hall. I know he's working on that, and echo some of the Councillor Dan. I just worked out earlier. I think you're probably the last person to can get the 25-year award, but we'll see. This is a report which has been brought to council because, as you all know, in February this year, we all approved the 26-27 budget and the MTFS 27 to 28-29, and that included several budget amendments by the Conservative group, as were the then opposition. And since unexpectedly we came into office a few weeks after that, we've now taken the last couple of months to review the priorities and review these matters to see how we can get delivery, because end of the day, councils are all about delivery. And unfortunately, we're in a time limited situation because of LGR, and our expectation is that in less than 2 years now, we will be expired one way or the other. We won't be here as a council. The council there'll be a new council, and it'll be the money and the budgets and everything will go over to whatever the new council is. And that's where we are. So basically, to implement all this proposal, this would require modification of the MTFS and the budget revenue situation. And so over the life of the current MTFS, there's a 1.7 million required, which would come from reserves, and also a capital programme of 1.135 million financed from revenue provision. And to basically go through it in kind of fine detail, now I know there's going to be a degree of, shall we say, we told you so. Well, I know I'm already predicting what's going to be said. So open space strategy, yes. Okay, that's kind of there, is what it is. Street cleansing. Now, the problem here is there was 2 street cleaners. Street cleaning machines. Unfortunately, one of the machines is now broken and cannot be repaired. So we need to buy a new machine. It won't be a brand new one, but it's one that's got a few miles on. Well, it's a demonstrator. And so basically we need to buy this, and that's why we've got this to obviously ensure that we can keep our streets clean, because that's what residents would like us to do. So that's in here. That's why we've got it in here. In terms of the voluntary wind up of the Harborough District Council Services Limited, there are 2 asks. First of all, we need some money to appoint a specialist contractor, and secondly, we need some money to provide liquidity support until all the assets are sold and the company's wound up. Now, I would hope that, yes, this is new, but I would hope that all councillors could support this. It's pretty important that we get on with this and we get this sorted out. Now, in terms of additional priorities, they're listed. So first of all, just to recap, back in budget in February, it was approved. There was a 1.125 million fund approved for what's now here Natalie described as the Local Economic Development Regeneration Initiative. That's a mouthful and a half, isn't there? And basically, this is the 1.25 million, which was supporting 4 localities. Now, what we're asking council to do is approve a further 250,000 to support development within the Kibworth locality for 26-27. Alongside this, there's a requirement in February again. We agreed a 50k revenue allocation for a surveyor valuer to support transfer work to parish and town councils of assets that they've all been sent a list of. However, what didn't happen is we didn't allocate any money to pay for the potential legal costs, and they're outlined on page 46, and that is the maximum that's expected, but 310,000 essentially to do that. So again, if we don't agree this, and if you choose to do something else, then this means that work cannot be undertaken, and there'll be a huge delay on actually getting those works to happen. Now, a couple of other new things that have been put forward.
Thank you, Councillor King. That's 5 minutes.
Well, could I indulge you with a couple of extra minutes?
No,
Chair?
we're going to stick to the 5-minute rule. Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you, Chair.
Do I have a seconder?
Well, if I may, Chair, I'll have to actually put the recommendations because I didn't actually say the words, Chair. So I'll put the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Seconded and reserve my remarks.
Does anybody wish to comment on this report? Councillor Knight?
So, yes, Chair, I actually would like to move an amendment that this report is deferred for scrutiny before any decision is taken. Whilst I agree in principle with the proposals, I wish to say that there are a number of proposals within the report that I welcome and I support: investment in local open spaces, enhanced street cleaning, support for our rural communities, and assistance with asset transfers. And these are all worthwhile objectives. We do not believe anyone in this chamber would object to cleaner streets, stronger communities, or protecting the heritage assets. However, the report asks council to approve approximately 1.7 million of additional revenue expenditure over the lifetime of the medium-term financial strategy, and over 1.1 million of additional capital expenditure funded largely through the use of reserves. Now, as members, we have a duty not only to support worthy projects, but also to ensure public money is being allocated based on robust evidence, clear business cases, and proper financial challenge. This report bundles together a very wide range of proposals, including staffing increases, grant schemes, economic development funding, support for parish asset transfers, expenditure related to HDCS Limited, and a 1 million heritage grant scheme. In several cases, the report explicitly states that detailed criteria, grant conditions, or business cases have yet to be developed and will follow later through delegated decision-making processes. Now, scrutiny could consider whether the proposed use of reserves represents the best long-term financial strategy, the affordability of these commitments, the evidence based for the Heritage Grant Scheme and Rural Grant Scheme, the value for money for each proposal. So none of this is being put through scrutiny as our previous budget was. And the report acknowledges that reserves will be reduced as a consequence of these decisions. And while further financial pressures may yet emerge from local government review and the environmental services contract, these are exactly the kinds of issues that scrutiny exists to examine. Good scrutiny should not be regarded as an obstacle to delivery. It is an essential part of good governance. And if these proposals are sound, scrutiny will strengthen them. If there are weaknesses, scrutiny will give the opportunity for improvement before public money is committed. And for those reasons, I urge members to support the amendment and refer the report to scrutiny before council reaches a final decision. As Shadow Finance, I would particularly emphasise that the report seeks approval for spending now, while some of the scheme details and criteria are to be developed afterwards. Thank you, Chair.
I'm just going to refer briefly to the monitoring officer. I know I've got a list of people here, but I just want a word from Leah on the amendment.
So thank you, Councillor Knight. You indicated at the start that you wanted to put forward an amendment to refer it to scrutiny, but an amendment needs to be taking out words from the recommendation. I don't have it in writing what amendment you specifically want to have, and that makes it difficult because the chairman has a duty to read out the amendment. So can you please clarify exactly what the wording of the amendment is, please?
It would be for scrutiny to study the report in full and report back to council with its recommendations. What's wrong with them?
Is that negating the motion? But where? I want this in writing. But what's he actually changing on the? So where are you inserting that into the recommendation?
It's simply that the report could not be accepted or should not be accepted at council until it has been fully reviewed by scrutiny.
But you couldn't have a report. Sorry, Chairman. You couldn't have an amendment to a motion which says the report cannot be accepted, because that would negate the substance of the motion. It has to be an amendment. So are you saying that prior to the wording in the recommendation, that council agrees to refer to scrutiny to consider
that then surely then that the report is deferred to go to scrutiny before being reconsidered by council.
Is it a point of order, Councillor Welbeck?
Yeah, because usually if you put an amendment, you either take some wording out, add some in. You can't just replace it and just say, "Oh, I won't deal with it today." You know, it's got to be an actual. If you don't like it, vote against it. But I don't understand what the amendment is. So I'm still not clear after several attempts, Councillor Knight, what your amendment is. So unless you come up with a series of wording in the next 30 seconds, I think we should press on with the debate on the report. Thank you.
Councillor Knight, if you are able to put something in writing right now, I'm happy to consider it.
So the wording that we would like, council agrees to defer this report to allow the scrutiny for consideration of the financial implications.
Councillor Knowles.
I fail to understand why the officers are trying to block something simple as this. It's not unreasonable to ask to defer a report back to another body within this council for further consideration, and to block. And I don't see the reason why this is being some cause of difficulty for the officers. I can understand why the controlling group may not want to do it, but equally, all we're asking for is a simple deferment back for further consideration of all the financial aspects, none of which have been considered. And I think it's a justifiable amendment that's been put forward. That's the point of order, Chairman. I still want to make some comments in a minute, if I may.
Councillor Graves, is it a point of order?
It is, but I wanted to give you time to rule on that one before raising a similar one, but I'm happy to raise it if you want to take both at the same time. It is of a similar nature to what Councillor Knowles has said. I'll be brief, if I may, then, Councillor Anderson.
Go on then, Councillor Graves.
My understanding of the text that came out is it exactly meets the requirements of the Constitution. I'm very happy with it. I think a lot of people in this chamber are. I'm struggling at the moment to understand that one person over there isn't, and I don't understand why, but I'm very happy with that. I think we need to almost rule a legal point.
Thank you. The chairman's just asked me to refer to the Constitution, which says an amendment to a motion must be relevant to the motion and will either be to leave out words, or to leave out words and insert or add others, or to insert or add words. So this is about inserting, replacing words, as long as the effect is not to negate the motion. So we can't have something that completely takes away the substance of the motion. So I understand at the moment, and forgive me, we haven't quite clearly, couldn't quite dictate it. The council agrees the decision be reviewed by scrutiny prior to consideration by council. But we'd need to be clear about, are you adding that at the start? I'm not trying to be difficult or pedantic here. This is about council procedure and following the procedure rules as they are set out.
Councillor King.
Chairman, we've now spent a considerable amount of time on this. I think I'd leave it to your ruling, but I think we need to move forward now. Please, Chair.
Yes, if a point of order, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. And yes, indeed, I leave it up to your ruling as well. But my point of order is this report sets out an awful lot of beneficial items for the community and things which the community is already looking forward to. Members' grant rule schemes and
This is not a point of
£250,000
order.
each. So the point of order is, what are we actually deferring? The whole lot to go to scrutiny that will shut this council down and scrutiny, or just one item in it?
Yeah, we're trying to review it. Is the amendment that council agrees that the decision be reviewed by scrutiny prior to any agreements in the increase in the, and then it follows the recommendation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that would,
So that would need seconding.
Please may I have a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Austin, thank you. In future, when it comes to amendments, it may be useful to write them down and perhaps even check some of the wording with the monitoring officer to avoid a situation like this. That's certainly what I probably would have done. So we are now moving on to the amendment. I do have a list of people who wish to speak. I have Councillor James first. Did you wish to speak on the amendment?
I want to say something else as well, but maybe later. Yeah, in terms of the amendment, I mean, I would support the amendment, if only the fact that we agreed a budget, we agreed this report weeks ago, and they've now been presented with vastly different figures. I think the figures we have here are more realistic than they were last time, but I think it needs a further look at, Chairman. Thank you.
I've got listed down Councillor Graves.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I do support the referral to scrutiny. 1.7 million is a heck of a commitment of finances. There has been a budget agreed, as Councillor James just said. However, with the budget, we have quite a bit of time, quite a bit of opportunity, and there's a joint budget scrutiny meeting. There's plenty of time to chew over the figures, to look at them, to consider alternative options. And I think with such a large amount of public funds being sort of flung at certain budgets, I think it's only responsible for scrutiny to check into this first. Thank you.
Councillor Galton.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Hopefully we can move forward in a positive way. I think it's quite reasonable that scrutiny has a look at the detail of this and has the opportunity to ask officers to put some more flesh on some of these proposals, or indeed the relevant portfolio holders. What the problem I've got with this is the lack of detail. Now, I recognise some of it. Some of it is just simply putting right what was in the February budget in relation to appointing the post to actually manage the new open spaces strategy and do the work around dealing with the private management issues. And that was in the original budget, and the now administration took that out. So I haven't got a problem with that. But then we move on to some of the other things, and they are new things. So the rural grant scheme is not something that you've provided any detail on about before. We need to understand how that's going to operate, how it's going to be delegated, who's going to be making the decisions, what's the involvement of ward members in it. There's no information in this report about any of that. Now then, looking at the local economic development, you actually go into quite a bit of detail on this, because you name the areas that will benefit from this scheme: Market Harbour, Lutterworth, Broughton Astley and Fleckney. And if I understand it, you're asking for an extra 250,000 for Kipworth. No explanation why you want an extra 250 for one particular village. But then, wearing my award member hat, there is no reference to the areas on the urban fringe of Thurmby, Bushby and Scraptop, which are due to take in the local plan the highest amount of development. No mention to the proposed development around Great Glen, between Great Glen and Oadby. So nothing about those areas of how the local economic development strategy and what you're proposing, some large sums of money, would impact on those areas, and would they be able to have grant funding? So all this needs to be looked at in quite a bit of detail, I think. Can't be done in this forum, Chairman, and therefore it's entirely right that we should take a bit of time to refer this to scrutiny and just understand exactly what you are proposing here. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Piper.
Thank you, Chair. I too am a little bit concerned about the change since the MTFS was agreed, but I'm also concerned that the council is planning a £1 million redevelopment of the parking at Bell Street in Lutterworth, which will have very little benefit on the people of Lutterworth, but may actually it could be the money could be used better to try and fill in some of this hole. Thank you.
Councillor Austin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. You know, I was at the Audit and Standards Committee meeting in February when the budget was being quite robustly debated and challenged for its viability. And at that meeting, all the questions that were raised or any queries that needed to get a response from were all eventually passed, and scrutiny recommended that budget to be passed. As you'll remember, Chair, that at the consequent council meeting, amendments were tabled, and those amendments were sold to us as being cost-effective savings and fully costed and right that, you know, we should utilise them, and that's why we voted for them. Now what we have is a situation where the old opposition administration is now the new administration, and due to changing the goalposts, changing the priorities on what they believe is the right way to actually go forward with the services that this council want to provide, they are now coming back and asking for substantial amounts of money without any real doubling down on what that's for and how that's going to be applied. So I would like to, by seconding the motion that has just been put forward, I think it's only right that, as we are basically the representatives of the constituencies that pay the money, that we only have right to scrutinise where that money's going, particularly when these are new proposals which we don't really know much about. So I would second that motion, Chair.
Councillor Knowles, followed by Councillor King.
Thank you, Chairman. On page 9 onwards, this whole agenda document was a string of changes uncosted that we were delivered to or with some months ago. Most of them have proved to be wrong, to be undeliverable, and we're now sitting here with major changes being proposed. The budget was actually highlighting, and I thought this was particularly interesting, comments that were made on page 12 of this, and it's documented. There was concern that the proposed budget was attempting to spend the council reserves before local government reorganisation, and that the proposed amendments would look to retain reserves. Not my words, the words from the actual minutes that are listed in the council document. We've also had the situation, Chairman, of this company, which is a right mess that we've had to unravel. That's now being looked at, and again, we're sitting here now. We've asked officers, there's no business plan can be found anywhere for that. There's money being asked for to sort all that out as well. And in general terms, there's quite a lot of things that suddenly were thrown on the table that we've had to try and sort out. And we were in the throes of sorting out. There's been a change of administration, and I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. This goes to scrutiny. Let scrutiny look through all of this extra finances that are being requested, and to be able to come back and make a comment. And I'm very happy to support this amendment because I think it's the right thing to do it's public money, and it's all right saying in one breath about running down council reserves, but in the next breath, they're trying to jack it up. They've spent 20 years in control of this council with questionable investment in the communities. We spent 3 years investing in the community, which is the right thing to do. We've got to make sure it's invested in the right way. I think it has to be scrutinised, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor King, I did say I was going to go to you, but as yours is a right of reply and somebody else has just stuck their hand up, would you?
Get the right of reply on the amendment. So he either has his right of reply or he speaks.
Would you prefer to speak now?
No, Chair. What I'd like to do is I'd like to request an adjournment, if we can, for 10 minutes, so we can just have a discussion with the opposition and with ourselves about how to move forward. Because we have a proposal, but we'd like to discuss it off meeting if we can before coming back. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, councillors. I'm happy to go to an adjournment if there is consensus to do so. So should I ask for like a raise hands?
I think just, is there anyone that's really opposed to?
Is there anybody that's really opposed to having an adjournment, which in my view does sound reasonable? Councillor Asher?
I think we should finish discussing the amendment first, so people have a chance to speak, and then maybe have an adjournment, so that everybody's managed to have their say on this before we have the adjournment.
Okay, so in the interest of getting a bit of consensus on the adjournment, if I allow you to speak, Councillor Asher, and others that wish to speak, and then go to an adjournment, would that be a reasonable compromise for everybody? Okay, fair enough. Councillor Asher, and then I'll come to Councillor Page. Mrs. Page.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Galton said he thinks it would be quite reasonable for this to go to scrutiny. I think it is absolutely essential that this goes to scrutiny. We sat here with the budget at the budget meeting, and these amendments came through last minute, and we knew that there were going to be things that weren't right in this budget, and that's why we didn't vote for them. And now we're here again tonight with more things in here. How do we know that these things are going to work? How do we know that this is what the public want? How do we know that this is what all the councillors want? This all needs looking at. And I'm very concerned that tonight Councillor Wellband has said that the grants are not coming to scrutiny. At the joint scrutiny meeting that I attended, it was agreed that the grants would be put on there before they go out to the public to come to scrutiny. And now we sit here tonight and he's saying they're not coming to scrutiny. And his reason being that they've been voted for on the amendment. The amendment that we got about 10 minutes before the meeting, and the amendment that we didn't vote for because we knew it was flawed. So here we are tonight with more money being requested, even though we were criticised for not leaving enough in the pot. And it all needs scrutinising, in my opinion. There's things in here that I could support, that I do support, but we must make sure that this goes to scrutiny. And if it was so important and so urgent that some of these items should be looked at tonight, they should have been separated. We cannot be expected to vote on this as a whole tonight. It is not right, and it should be deferred. Thank you.
Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very disappointed that we're playing politics with the well-being of our communities. When we went to the budget, some of these items were already decided. And what's before you, it is only something or mostly what the previous administration wanted. We're bringing back your open space strategy and the officer. Street cleansing, we all know that that needed to be done and it was scrutinised. The only thing that before me, it is on the first page, it's a voluntary wind-up of the council services, which is inevitable, and I believe some discussions were had with the previous leadership on that. Now, when we're talking of the regeneration fund, Councillor Knowles went around and promised, sorry, Councillor Knowles, you promised Lutterworth and Fleckney and Broughton Astley £250,000. There was no drawdown criteria and it had to go to full council. So now we're saying, oh, because we're politics, you are not getting the £250,000. I don't think Councillor Austin Fleckney will be very happy, nor will Lutterworth. And then when we're looking, we all wanted the £35,000 for each member. So now we're scrutinising it. Our communities are looking forward for us to support some of these things. Now, we can wait. Now, what's new? It's a heritage grant scheme, and I'll give that, but there are reasons in the back. And we can always make the decisions and take it back later. But if this doesn't go through full council now, it will delay all of that. And should there be LGR, God knows, there will be a section 24 issued. That section 24, which most of you know, is that no authority can spend over £100,000. Then you're all in the doggy doodah because you can't put this through. So just go ahead and scrutinise it. But I certainly will put it in my leaflet, who has scapered my £250,000 for Lutterworth and my £35,000. I'm very, very disappointed and angry with this. Now, as we're playing politics, and I will mention you as well, Councillor Knight, at the next town council meeting, because all of the community in Lutterworth is waiting for the drawdown criteria for £250,000. But what are we saying? We're taking a whole report back. Can't we just play nice and adults and pick out the things you want to take back and the things you agree? So why not decide on what you want to go to scrutiny? I'll go with that. But let's not say the whole lot is going to go back, because it doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Councillor Graves and Councillor Austin, I notice you have your hands up. You have already both spoken. Are either of these points of order?
Councillor Anderson, I thought you were inviting people to speak about the adjournment proposal. I was a bit surprised.
No,
there were two
apologies,
lots.
Councillor Graves. I was allowing people to just finish speaking on the amendment before we
Okay,
went
I'll
to adjournment.
withdraw then. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, Councillor Austin, as you have already spoken, you don't get to right of reply. Okay, so I think an adjournment is a good idea. I hope you use the time constructively. What would you like, 10 minutes? Okay, so if we'll come back here in 10 minutes, the meeting's adjourned. has written up a text that she's going to read out, and then we're going to see if we have agreement from Councillor Knowles and Councillor Knight on the written text.
Thank you, Chairman. So the revised proposed motion is that Council agrees that the recommendations are considered by the Corporate and Performance Scrutiny Committee on 23rd of July, and the scrutiny recommendations on the increase in the revenue budget of 1.7 million and so on, and then the 2026-7 capital programme 1.135 million and so on, then be presented to an extraordinary council on the 27th of July.
Thank you. Councillor King and Councillor Knight, are you in agreement with this text? Councillor King?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Knight?
Yes, I'm agree.
So it now becomes substantive motion. So just any final points on substantive, right to reply for Councillor King and vote.
Okay, so this has now become the motion. So is there any final comments before Councillor King makes his right of reply?
But he spoke on the amendment. It's now.
Councillor Graves.
Yes, thank you. As you said, I spoke on the amendment. This is just a comment on the main. There's a significant issue for many of our parishes as the district council's looking at certain assets in parish locations. And I just wanted to express a concern. I think Councillor King's already mentioned page 46. It's little 2 of paragraph 3.5. So 3.5 additional priorities, little 2, and the project support 310,000, which means a further 260,000 in legal costs. But when you go to the end of that paragraph, it says it is hoped that the town and parish councils finalise their land transfers. The total ask will be less than the total 50 sites. I think there's a plan for that to be 50. So dividing the number over 50 sites, that's, for example, it's over £5,000 per site. I mean, many of us know how much it costs to buy a house. I know that some of the land transfers may be a lot more complicated, but I think some of them may be far less complicated. So I just did want to raise that with councillors to put it in front of them. And furthermore, I scrutinise every agenda really carefully of my own parish. And whilst I think this has been mentioned, I haven't seen, to my knowledge, and I hope I'm not making a mistake, to my knowledge, I haven't seen any details for the local parish to consider yet. So I don't know whether it's being done behind the scenes and maybe not being minuted in the main parish agenda. But what's happening? You know, I do think some of these parishes need to enlighten their parish councillors on some of the project proposals. So that's just 2 points, Chairman, I wanted to make about the that particular budget amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Graves. Councillor Asher.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, can I suggest that the scrutiny meeting on the 23rd is made into a joint scrutiny meeting, which I believe the budget normally does go to a joint scrutiny meeting. Thank you.
So that would have to be a further amendment. There's nothing to stop other members of scrutiny, services scrutiny coming along to the meeting.
But in theory, would they be, or would they do a call?
They can comment. They just need to answer.
So, Councillor Asher, in answer to your question, in order for us to facilitate that, we'd have to make another amendment to the amendment. But officers have just mentioned that other scrutiny members could indeed attend that panel and comment if they wish to do so. So I would suggest that's probably sufficient. Do you?
Yes, okay, thank you, Chair.
Councillor King, would you like to exercise your right of reply?
I would, Chairman. Thanks very much. Well, okay, so I'm very grateful that we've managed to get a resolution as to move this forward, because we don't really want to be sat here for a long time debating this all these different points. Just to pick up the point Councillor Graves raised about asset transfers to parish councils. And I understand under the previous administration there were meetings held with different parishes or parishes who had expressed an interest. There was some discussion with them on one of the parish liaisons meetings, or it was sent out to them in some communication form for those to express an interest, and those that did then had a series of meetings, and the council has employed someone to do a lot of the legwork on that. And they've all been sent, as I understand, a list of assets that are currently owned by the district council in their parishes, for them to then take it through their governance process as to which ones they would be interested in pursuing further with the district council. And those have only recently come back in their completeness to the district council. The problem isn't that so much. The problem is that when this was originally put together previously, as I mentioned, the legal costs, and it is a maximum figure as well. So it wasn't going to be that's how much we're going to spend. It is a maximum figure. It's expected to be less than that, considerably less. The problem is that at the moment we don't know. As you rightly say, some of these asset transfers could be incredibly complicated. Some of them could be incredibly straightforward and simple. We just don't know because potentially there's a lot of them. And until it's all done and dusted, we won't actually know how much that's going to cost. So that's basically, I just wanted to answer that specific point. But otherwise, Chair, I didn't really want to dwell on the rest of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. So what we'll do now is we will move to vote on the motion, which has now been amended. So those in favour, please raise your arm.
I think that's Rosita Page.
Abstentions?
That does cover.
And therefore, that is carried. Could I just congratulate the leaders on both sides for taking the time to work constructively together on this. I'm pleased that you were able to reach a resolution. We'll move on to item 12, the corporate plan refreshed narrative. I'll invite Councillor Wellban to present the report.
Yes, thank you very much. Just a standard report, really. Obviously, since the change of the administration, the narrative on the corporate plan has had to be updated. And so the changes you will see are from page 10 of the corporate plan, which is an appendix to the report. Happy to take any questions, but I think all self-explanatory. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor King?
Yeah, happy to second, Chair. Reserve my rights. Thank you.
Would anybody like to speak or comment on this report? Councillor Piper.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've made a few comments about this report. When we are talking about contract values, when you're talking about, so I saw the lady there put her microphone on and turn it off again. That's why I paused.
If I may, Chairman, apologies, Councillor Piper. Yours and Councillor Austin's microphone, it seems, goes echoey until I put this one on, and then it returns to normal. So if you see me put it on, that's why.
Sorry, it did confuse me a little bit. I beg your pardon to everybody. When we're talking there about contract values, depending on what authority is needed giving, are the contract values calculated as the value for the financial year, or are they calculated as the sum of all of the years? For example, if you've got somebody who is a temporary worker, they're expected to cost so much in the first year.
Chairman, if I may, Councillor Piper, are you talking about the changes to the contract procedure rules? Because that's a later item.
Oh, beg your pardon.
That's okay.
I'll come back to this other one. I noticed in the corporate plan there is talks about jobs and the number of jobs. I think the number of jobs is important, but the type of jobs is actually more important, because we have certain skills in the area and we need jobs for those skills rather than just jobs for the sake of jobs. I also wondered on here how many of the Harborough District residents actually commute out of Harborough on a daily basis. I know that there are many people in Lutterworth commute well to London and further afield. the housing and industry requirements require a lot more infrastructure. And there's been little infrastructure in and around Magna Park, even though that it's expanded by many fold. And indeed, the what's known as the Gibbet roundabout is said to be at capacity and has been for a while. The extra housing which is planned, going back to the infrastructure, and I think which is quite a relevant point in a number of parts of the district, is flooding. And whilst we've got existing places of quite severe flooding, we're still talking about planning more houses in those areas. And I did wonder whether all of the pictures in the corporate plan seem to be almost totally east of the motorway. And I would have thought that would have been nice to have at least one or two pictures from, say, Lutterworth, whether it be the airplane island or Whitcliffe's church or something along those lines, which would make it more encompassing for the whole district rather than just the east side. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Piper. Any other questions or comments? Councillor James.
Yeah, there's lots of good things in this document, but I think there's one area that we're not giving enough attention to. I've mentioned this before, and that is the health. We refer to health and we refer to working with other organisations and partnerships. But as many of us know, there's a waiting list of about 10 weeks to see a doctor at the moment. And in terms of health, early diagnosis and treatment is very important. And I don't think there's enough emphasis in document about keeping people healthy. So that would be a comment I would like to make. I think there's a lot more work can be done on that. And when you look into some of the details in the document, you know, we are an aging population, quite a high figure of older people, 22%, I think. So I think there needs to be more emphasis on health in here. And carrying through in planning applications. If we're dealing with planning applications, we need to make sure that there are pharmacies in place there, that in some cases medical centres. They're my comments mainly, Chairman. Thank you.
Councillor Mrs. Page. Okay. Is there anybody else that wishes to make any comment? So I'll go firstly to you, Councillor Wellman, to exercise your right to reply. Did you want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to do so. I mean, look, I mean, this plan, it's been, it is the corporate plan, which was adopted a while ago. So what I was going to say is that they're all good points. The pictures, I think we did pick that up already. I've mentioned that about for some reason the pictures got changed from an earlier version. That'll be, I understand, is going to be sorted out in the published version, so that it's more reflective of the whole district. Yeah, I mean, all the points that have been made. I mean, it's a very high level strategic document, isn't it? And yeah, all of those are issues that residents raise with us. But the one thing they do raise with us quite a lot is the fact that we're having a housing target imposed on us by the national government, which is well above our historic delivery. And unfortunately, what the government isn't doing and hasn't done is supplying us with the necessary wherewithal to build that infrastructure, Councillor James, that you mentioned, to deal with all these things, or the Gibbet Hill roundabout, sort out the delays with traffic and all those problems. The government is not supplying that. It's basically said you've got to find it from development, but then you all voted for the local plan, which is forcing development on our areas without any ability to deliver the infrastructure at scale. So that's where we are, but we just have to, you know, go with it. Thanks very much.
Councillor Wellman.
Nothing further to add, really. Councillor Piper, you raised a number of specific points about the corporate plan, which we can get you some answers to. Tonight, we're just talking about the refreshed narrative at the beginning. Councillor James, you also mentioned some points about the plan. This was your plan. We've only changed the beginning, so just to leave that there. But I won't say any more, and we hopefully can go to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wellban. Council is making decisions on this report. These have been proposed and seconded. So those in favour, please raise your arm. That is unanimous and that is carried. The next item is item 13, changes to the council's constitution. I will now invite Councillor King to present the report in his role of the chair of the Constitutional Review Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So as chairman of the CRC Constitutional Review Committee, there's recommendations in the report, and this is that A, that the changes to the Audit and Standards Committee terms of reference, and B, the changes to the contract procedure rules, which replace both the contract procedure rules and statement of recommended practice in the Constitution. And the reason for this is that so the Constitution remains up to date with best practice on local government law. I will spare everyone. I'm not going to go through all the detail. If colleagues wish to attend a Constitutional Review Committee, or you can always watch the recording from the last meeting to go through the time that the members who turned up spent on going through all of these issues. I think if there are detailed questions, I will have to leave it to our technical legal advisors to give you that information. But it is something we need to do, and I would urge all colleagues to accept this because, you know, we need to stay legal, as they say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dan. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions on this report? Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you, Chairman. Just something for my information, really. 27 years ago, and even still 20 years ago, when there were schemes of delegation and delegations were given to officers, it used to come to the executive, and I remember it used to be signed off by the executive, or an officer had to come and say, can I have delegated authority? And there used to be a great big list on the council's website, and I was wondering, have we still got that? Do we still do that? Just, you know, inform me on that. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councillor Piper.
Thank you very much again, Chair. I think this is the point at which I asked the question about when we were talking about contract values. Are we talking about contract values in a financial year or in the continuation as until the project is finished?
Chair, if I may, I would need the Leah or someone to answer that question. Thank you, if that's possible.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'll deal with Councillor Piper's query first. So when we do procurement exercises, you are looking at what you expect the life of the contract to be. So you mentioned members of staff, you try and say, well, I'll need them for X amount of time to cover that project or until we recruit to replacement. It doesn't always pan out that way, but that's the approach you take. In terms of Councillor Mrs. Page, the rules on executive decisions changed in 2012. So there was quite a substantial rewrite in the way that we had to do delegated decisions on executive items at that point. In principle, in the Constitution, there is a scheme of delegation, and that does provide where members and officers will make decisions, but more detailed delegations are held within the service areas.
Councillor Dan, did you want to come back with any comments at all? Okay. Council, once again, you're making decisions on this report. These have been proposed and seconded. So those in favour, please raise your arm. That is unanimous. That is carried. Item 14, conferring the powers of parish councils on parish meetings. I'll invite Councillor Dan to present the report.
Thank you, Chairman. This report will empower parish meetings to have the ability to carry out functions normally associated with parish councils. Many of our parish meetings are well established and would like to do a few more things that would benefit their residents. I congratulate Drayton, Binghurst and Neville Holt, who have been proactive in coming forward with proposals that will be of a benefit to their community. With the coming of LGR, we may see more requests in the near future as parish meetings seek a greater level of empowerment. The report therefore proposes a simple route through which decisions can be made in the future by the head of Democratic Services and Elections or the head of Legal in consultation with local members and portfolio holders. In this instance, it would allow a parish meeting to implement traffic calming measures. And should note that under 4.1, there are no direct financial implications for HDC. I therefore move the recommendations on pages 165 and 166. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rickman.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This actually came up at one of the parish meetings I went to, where they were trying to, we've succeeded in getting a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit through the village, and they paid themselves to have the dragon's teeth on the road, but they weren't allowed to have a speed sign according to highways because they're a parish meeting. Now, I defy any councillor here to go to any meeting where speed and dogfouling aren't on the agenda. And and obviously the speed is getting a very big concern now. Cars are getting faster. They're not taking notice of things like horses on the road and care in the way they go through villages. So I think this is really important. So regardless of whether you're a parish meeting or a parish council, the criteria should be the same, and that is to save life and prevent death. So I'm very much in favour of this.
Thank you, Councillor Rickman. Is there anybody that wishes to comment or speak on this? Councillor King?
Yeah, Chairman. So I'm very pleased that we are finally doing this, and I would encourage the council to write to all parish meetings across the Harbour District to confirm what we've actually done if this is passed through, and actually invite them to apply to obtain the same powers, because within the Kibworths ward there are a number of parish meetings that have previously spent a great deal of time previously discussing these issues with members of staff here and elsewhere, and unfortunately we didn't get the clarity as we have now on this matter. So this is very welcome, and I think these parish meetings will welcome the ability to do this and get this done without having to convert themselves into a parish council. So I'm fully behind this. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Woody West.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. So while I was in the Cabinet, we were approached many times on this subject. And yes, yeah, I agree. So some of these places already have MVAS signs, and they record speeds of 70 in 30-mile-an-hour areas. But the point I'd like to bring up now is you mentioned about one of the neighbourhood meetings not being able to, parish meetings, sorry, not being able to have a sign. It was communicated to us that this was because they had to hold liability for it and they're not a legal entity. So can we just actually clarify that they will be able to actually provide signs for themselves, or will they just be able to contribute towards somebody else actually owning those signs?
Anybody else wish to speak on this report? Councillor Dan, would you like right of reply?
As far as I'm aware, under 4.1, it won't be down to HDC, but it will be down to this parish meeting or parish council to supply those funds. in conjunction with officers of the council, portfolio holders and any members of their community.
Council, you're once again making decisions on this report. These have been proposed and second. So those in favour, please raise your arm. That is unanimous. That's carried. We'll move on now to item 15, review of the political balance of the council. This report was circulated on Friday and hard copies have been made available at this meeting. I will now invite Councillor Wellband to present this report.
Yes, thank you very much. So obviously since the Lutterworth East by-election, we've had to redo the political calculations of political balance. There is a slight tweak we're putting forward, which is to change the planning committee to 10, which I think putting it to 12 was slightly too much, to be honest, because that's effectively a large part of the council. So subject to that, this is what we're proposing. Hope everyone can agree. Thank you very much.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor King.
Happy to second, Chair. Thank you. Reserve my right.
Any comments or questions on the political balance? No, Councillor King, you can make your comments. Okay. All right then. So once again, you're making decisions. My apologies, Councillor Finan.
Sorry, my maths might be wrong, but the planning says 11, but it adds up to 12. All right.
So, yes, there was an unfortunate error when it was originally circulated. I did provide councillors with an update on Friday, but then after further review, what's just been proposed is that there would be 10 councillors on the committee, which would be 4 Conservative, 3 Coalition, 2 Independents and 1 Reform, which should be 4, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Thank you. So my maths wasn't wrong.
Okay, so making decisions on this report. This has been proposed and second. So those in favour, please raise your arm.
It's unanimous.
That is unanimous and that is carried. Item 16, any urgent business, which there is one. So I have received a request from the Standards Subcommittee that Council receive recommendations from their meeting on the 30th of June 2026. I've agreed to accept this item on the grounds of special urgency, in that I do not consider it in the best interest of the council or the councillor concerned to prolong this matter until our next meeting on the 28th of September. It is important to resolve this before our next round of committee meetings, so we will now consider the following item. To consider recommendation from Standards Subcommittee meeting of the 30th of June to remove Councillor Graves from all committee appointments. I will now ask Councillor Bremner, as the chair of the Audit and Standards Committee, to introduce this item. Thank you, Councillor Bremner.
Point of order, if I may, please.
Yes.
Before you start. Thank you. So, I have not received any paperwork at all. So I'm totally in the dark. Now, I might not be the cleverest page in the book, but I always thought the agenda rule says 5 clear days must be given before an item can be placed on an agenda or discussed. An item that is not, I got note of this and I've only got an idea because it was mentioned to me, but I didn't get any information. So in my opinion, I did not have 5 clear days. I did not have any information. So therefore, I think this item can only be discussed and no decision can be made. But I've been told that we have to make a decision. I also understand under section 100B of the 1972 Local Government Act that items brought under urgent business can only be discussed and not voted on. So I would like, before I'm going to have to vote blind on something I don't know anything about, and I'm separating the issue of Councillor Graves from the procedural process. I would like an information why this is here, why I haven't got any information, why there haven't been 5 clear days, and why am I expected to vote blindly on something or that will affect somebody's life and put me and my administration into a very, very poor decision place. Thank you. So if you can, please, before.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Page. Councillor Rickman and Councillor Premier, your microphone's still on. Can I just refer you to the monitoring officer as to reply to that?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Page was talking about the procedure rules on issuing council agendas. She referred to section 100B of the Local Government Act 1972, which says that normally a council can only consider items if it's been placed on its agenda at least 5 clear working days in advance. But 100B gives an exception for urgent business, and where the chairman believes that an item can be added for the reason of special urgency, as the chairman has just explained, then it can be added. And the reason why this wasn't included on the agenda was because the Standards Committee met after the agenda had been issued. So we didn't know at that time if the Standards Committee was going to make any recommendations at all. So that's the reason why it's been added tonight for consideration.
If I may come back, Chairman, but I have not had 5 days. I do not know what it is all about, and I'm supposed to vote on something which I don't know what it is about. And I think that is a really serious matter, and I can't be expected to do so.
Councillor Bremner, would you like to, perhaps you could introduce this item for a bit of clarity?
I have a thought in my head. I'll read. I won't go to the part which concerns Councillor Graves and the vote, but I need to read the other 2 items from this to cover the committee. On the 30th of June 2026, the Standards Subcommittee met to consider a report that Councillor Graves had failed to provide an appropriate apology following a breach of the Code of Conduct. The matter related to a statement made by Councillor Graves at the council meeting on October 2025, which the monitoring officer had determined to be a breach of the Code of Conduct through failing to show respect to council officers. It was determined that Councillor Graves should apologise, but had failed to provide a suitable apology. The subcommittee considered that the complaint and supporting evidence, Councillor Graves' response to the complaint, the decision notice of the monitoring officer and correspondence relating to the proposed apology, a further statement from Councillor Graves, the views of Gordon Grimes, the independent person, and the Local Government Association guidance on sanctions. Taking all of this into account, the subcommittee have unanimously recommended the following: that this matter is reported to this council at its meeting of 6th of July 2026. Done. That Councillor Graves has sent a letter from the committee censuring his conduct over this matter. That also has been done. Now, this is the point of decision, but I might have a comment to make for council as well. That Councillor Graves is removed from all his committee appointments, which would therefore include removal as the chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. It is therefore proposed that, in line with the recommendation C, Councillor Graves is removed from his current committee appointments, and following consideration of the political balance report earlier tonight, the monitoring officer is instructed not to allocate seats on committees to Councillor Graves. there's a balance, I think I've heard from members. One, which is really critical, is that the subcommittee has delegated authority to discuss and make recommendation to this council. On the other hand, the legal basis, the outline of what has been discussed, and not the detail of the complaint, because that would break confidentiality, that hasn't been provided to members in that detail. I haven't discussed what I'm about to say with anybody. I want to float it. And I don't know if I can do this constitutionally or not, but I'm going to float it. In order for members to have more sight of the process that the committee went through and some paperwork to describe the decision-making that the committee decided upon the sanction, that information should be provided to members, and then this vote on his removal from committee should be decided at the full council meeting on the 27th of July. So if that proposal is acceptable to the monitoring officer, I would like to propose that, and I would seek a seconder.
Councillor King.
Chairman, as chair of the Constitutional Review Committee, I'm prepared to second Councillor Dr. Bremner's proposal. Thank you.
We need to vote.
We do need to take a vote. We do need to take a vote on this item. It's constitutionally sound because it's what's been proposed, it's what's been seconded, then it's fine. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Bannister.
Thank you, Chairman. I am of similar mind to that of Councillor Page, very concerned about the lack of information with regard to the chronology, context and process with regard to an item that has been put in as urgent business on Friday afternoon for a council decision, suggesting or proposing a very serious sanction against one of our fellow members. I've been a councillor since 2011. That's 15 years. I've never encountered a proposal for such a serious sanction. So I do think that we ought to take care with regard to the decision that we take. Particularly, I want to be reassured that Councillor Graves was aware of the sanctions that were going to be imposed on the 30th of June, that the process was indeed fair to him, so that we can make these decisions with confidence. And just going back to the section of the Local Government Act of 1972 that Councillor Rosita Page referred to, it talks about the decision of the chairman to accept an item for urgent business. He needs to be satisfied that there are special circumstances relating to that item, and those special circumstances are real and are able to be recorded. So far, Chairman, with due respect, the special circumstance that you appear to have indicated in this case is simply that you don't wish the matter to be further delayed any longer. And I'm not convinced myself that that does relate to a special circumstances, but I'm sure there may be precedent to suggest otherwise, but I'm not persuaded that it's a particular special circumstance to rush something in the absence of any particular report backing that up. I want to support Councillor Bremner's proposal that we do defer this matter to the next council meeting as agreed on the 27th of July, and members have that appropriate information so that we can make a decision in confidence with regard to a very serious matter against one of our members. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Page.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, I would like to say thank you to Dr. Bremner for the proposal that he's made tonight. It's made it an easier decision for me to support that. I do have experience of having been on at least 6 or 7 other disciplinary committee meetings in another place. And I have to say that, and I think Councillor Piper has too, that the way in which this feels to me rushed and without the necessary notice to the individual member, I think it's unreasonable. And I would like to suggest that actually, no matter what the procedure is, that actually we as a council look at how this is actually interpreted for the future, because I would not want any one of us to have to go through something similar to this again. I think Councillor Graves is here, I noticed that, but I hope very much that the council will take into consideration all matters that can be disclosed to us. And I do find it difficult that actually I don't have any history here, but tonight I was expected to come here to make a decision on the basis of what Dr. Bremner had to say, and I don't think that was fair or reasonable or right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I do appreciate I've been speaking a bit tonight, and that's somewhat unusual. I just want to clarify here, the expectation is that as councillors, you would want more information about what the Standards Committee deliberated and how they reached their conclusions without necessarily having the full papers underlying the original complaint made, which some of which would gets into some depth and personal detail. It's about how the committee reaches conclusions, and if that is fair. Thank you. I can see Councillor Donnelly.
Could I also just add, Chair, that I think members would like to see a bit more summary or detail of the legal basis of how it was brought to the subcommittee and how it is then brought to the full council. I think that would satisfy people's curiosity, and it would satisfy their basis of making a decision that they can decide upon.
Is there any other, excuse me, any other comments on this matter before we move to a vote? Yes, Mrs.
Just one, thank you, Chairman. I have to thank Paul Bremner, Leah, and everybody involved. I think it's a good outcome. I'm very, very pleased and proud that we are at this stage. And I hope that that whole process will be reviewed and evaluated to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Page. Councillor Finan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say thank you to you for bringing this. I know that it's been almost criticised in a way that this any other business has been brought today because it seems rushed. But just looking at the actual list of meetings that were coming up, the next time the council would meet would be the 28th of September. And for personal well-being, I think it would be probably beneficial for Councillor Graves in order to get some kind of closure on this matter. And so fortune has it that we have just put in an extra council meeting, and I think that does bring it to a conclusion quite reasonably and eloquently, and therefore there can be some kind of review by everybody. But thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Finan. Councillor Asher.
Yes, just really to echo Councillor Finan's comments and also to thank Councillor Bremner. I did sub for Audit and Standards Committee a few weeks ago with another complaint, and it's a very difficult situation when there's complaints against fellow councillors, and I think that complaint that we had on that night had dragged on and on. So I can see why it was an urgent business. When, as Councillor Fan said, there was no other meetings in the diary. So it did make more sense to have it as urgent business. I think it is just a very difficult situation for all, and it's a awful situation to have on one person's shoulders. So I commend you for what you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Asher. Councillor King?
All I wanted to ask, Chair, presumably, I know Councillor Graves isn't here, so presumably he will be communicated with to explain what's happening, will he? In good time so he's aware that that's what's going to be happening at that meeting.
I expect he'll want a quick answer on what happens tonight. In which case I'm happy to draft and write an email to send to him now as soon as this meeting closes.
Whenever's convenient. Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you, Chair.
Any other comments at all? So before we move on, I'd also like to echo some of the comments congratulating or thanking, I should say, Dr. Bremner on your professionalism and your approach to this. It is much appreciated. So Council, obviously, the wording and the dates have changed, but we're making a decision on this report now that has been proposed and second. So those in favour, please raise your arm.
I think that's unanimous.
That is unanimous and that is carried. As there are no other businesses any other business to discuss, the time is 23 minutes past 8 and this meeting has ended.